We are physically, literally, well, she actually is physically, literally inside my store cupboard. This is my store cupboard here.
And you're quite lucky to have a really big store cupboard.
I am.
Because not many people have a walk-in store cupboard. I'd rather have a walk-in wardrobe myself, but you know, you always talk when we do the recipes about oils and all that kind of boring stuff.
That's right. No, it's not. We're basically going to go through all the ingredients so that you're going to be able to bake healthy cakes for your kids. Okay, but especially if your child has an allergy and you're baking for them, you need to get in the right ingredients. So we're going to go through everything just to make sure that everything is clear and simple for you. You will be baking those cakes.
Where are the Jaffa cakes and the crisps? That's all I want to know.
Let's go.
Let's go.
Sugar. We want to make cakes. We want to make them sweet. So what are we going to use? Sugar.
Sugar!
But the thing is, we want to make sure that it's an unrefined caster sugar, and we can just reduce it down a little bit just to make it a bit of a healthier cake. And we can also use other sugar substitutes. We can use things such as a pure maple syrup.
Mapley syrup!
And also things like honey. Honey. But what we want to do, if you can, is to use a local honey. Now I got this honey from a local beekeeper. I've got a little beekeeper fact here for you.
Here's a fact for you.
If your child has hay fever and you give them a teaspoon of honey every day coming up to the hay fever season, it's going to ward off the hay fever.
Warding off that hay fever.
Good fact for you there. We're also going to use other things to make the cake sweet. We're going to use some dried fruit. Things like dried apricots and some sultanas and some dates. But what you really want to do, if possible, you want to make sure that they're organic. And the reason you want to make sure they're organic is because they don't have things in like sulfites, preservatives, added sugars, added oils. Because a lot of time with things like sulfites, if you've got a very sensitive child that gets asthma, it can bring on a bit of asthma. So if you can avoid it, the better. We've also got things like the jams that you can use. These jams are great. They're called St. Dalfour jams, Rhapsody de Fruits. Now the reason I use these jams are because they are sweetened with fruit juice. So you get a really fruity, intense fruity flavour, but it's not so sweet, so it's really lovely. It's lovely, lovely for the cakes. And the other thing you can use, which you can keep really easily in your store cupboard, are your tinned fruits.
Tinny tin fruits.
And what you want to make sure with your tinned fruits is that they are sweetened in fruit juice rather than syrup. That's just going to be better for them, really, isn't it?
It's much better for them, really, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so. You may think that fat is actually bad for you, but it's not. Fat is...
It's not!
It's good for you. You need fat. You need fat for your energy. You need it to carry around the vitamins that are fat soluble. It's very, very important. And you do need, normally, butter in cakes. And if you have a child that's got an intolerance or an allergy to dairy or milk products, then what are you going to do to replace the butter?
What are you going to do?
You're going to use this. You're going to use beautiful olive oil.
Popeye.
Now the thing with olive oil, as we all know from Mediterranean people, is very good for you. But there might be a rare occasion, like there was with my son, where they can't take olive oil, they might have an allergy to it. So we found a very, very good substitute in rice bran oil.
Rice bran oil, remember that.
Also, another thing you can use for rice bran oil, fantastic roast potatoes. Honestly, they make them so crispy. Put rice bran oil on your roast potatoes.
Get your spuds in!
Now the other thing I like to use, especially for the icings, the coconut oil. Really.
Coconut.
Now coconut oil I use especially in the icings, but this is a fantastic, fantastic oil. Really, really good for you. So get using it.
Get using it, we know where you live. Flour! Flour! Flour, flour, flour!
What are we going to do to replace that standard white refined flour that you would
What are we going to do?
In a cake? Well, this is what I use, and this is spelt flour. I love spelt flour. It's brilliant.
Love it!
Not only has it got a really lovely nutty flavour and a lovely cakey texture, but it's also got a lot of minerals and vitamins, and it's water soluble, which means it's easier to digest.
Easier to digest.
And lowering gluten, which also means it's easier to digest.
Easier to digest.
But the other thing is, what if you have a child that's allergic to gluten?
I do.
These are the other flours that we use. We use things like rice flour.
Get your eyes in.
And also coconut flour.
Coconuts are good.
And also ground almonds.
Get ground in those almonds.
But you also want to make sure that you've got raising agents as well. So I tend to use some bicarbonate of soda and baking powder. But the thing is, with these, you want to make sure that they are gluten-free, because some of them do contain gluten.
They make a nice pair of earrings, don't you think? Eggs.
You normally do use eggs in your cakes.
I do love an egg.
And what we want to make sure that you do use are large, free-range eggs, if you can. If you can't, doesn't matter, but if you can.
Just make sure they're free-rangey.
But sometimes you might have an allergy, again, to eggs, so what I tend to use is milk. Now, there are lots of different types of milks you can use. You can use standard cow's milk or sheep's milk or whatever type of milk you want. But again, if your child has an allergy to that, you want to use different milks. You can maybe use a nut milk, like an almond milk.
Get the almonds in!
Or maybe use coconuts again. They do a really lovely coconut milk called cocoa that I love to use.
Go!
Any milk you want, give it a go.
I didn't recognise anything in that store cupboard before that little thing that we just did, whatever that was.
Yeah.
But now, everything makes sense.
Well, there you go. Now your store cupboards are going to be bursting full of lovely ingredients.
Bursting.
I
I feel a cake coming on.
I feel it coming on. Let's go and get bacon.